Do you believe that to completely change your entire life, all you need is to make a single decision, and that it can be made in less than a minute? It might sound absurd, doesn't it? But this is exactly what separates those who remain trapped from those who achieve results that seem impossible. And it has nothing to do with luck, it relates to something happening inside you right now, which you probably don't even notice. I see so many intelligent, talented people, with degrees, courses, and even experience in what they do, yet they remain trapped, completely stuck. They wake up every day with the feeling that they could be in a much better place in life, but somehow, they keep going around in circles. It's as if they are inside an invisible cage. They look outside, see opportunities passing by, see other people prospering, but when they try to move, something pulls them back. And do you know the most curious thing? Most don't even realize this prison exists. It's not a lack of effort. It's not a lack of intelligence. It's what I call a paradigm, a set of beliefs, habits, and thinking patterns deeply installed in the subconscious, working like an autopilot. It's as if you have a mental GPS program to always take you to the same destination, no matter how many times you try to change the route. That's why even when you set new goals, even when you commit to change, after a few days or weeks, you end up exactly back where you were before. I know this because I lived like that for years. I was always working hard, but in jobs I hated, with salaries that barely covered the bills. Jobs that didn't require my creativity, didn't bring satisfaction, and worst of all, left me with the feeling that my life was passing before my eyes without me truly living it. I would go to work knowing that day would be the same as yesterday, and tomorrow would be the same as today. And if you've been through that, you know how much it eats away at you inside. The problem is that the paradigm doesn't set in suddenly. It starts in childhood, with what you hear, see, and live. Parents, teachers, friends, even society as a whole, repeating ideas like, money doesn't grow on trees, you need security, don't take too many risks, work hard and maybe one day you'll get something better. These phrases, which seem like harmless advice, shape the way you see the world. And before you know it, you're limited by beliefs you never chose to have. What puzzled me most was seeing extremely capable people, far more educated than me, trapped in the same snare. They knew what to do to improve, but they didn't do it. Have you ever caught yourself saying, I know I should do this, but I don't know why I don't? That is the hallmark of the paradigm at work. It keeps you trapped not by what you don't know, but by what you think you know and isn't true. I remember one particular case that affected me deeply. At one of my seminars, a mother brought her 24-year-old son, against his will. She knew she had programmed him with a limited mindset about work and money. And even loving her son, she admitted, I programmed him the wrong way. This happens every day, in thousands of families. Not out of malice, but out of lack of awareness. The big problem is that as long as the paradigm does not change, no matter how much effort you put in or how many hours you work, the outcome tends to remain the same, year after year. This is extremely frustrating for anyone who dreams of something bigger. It's like driving with the handbrake on, you move forward, but never reach your full potential. The first step to change this is awareness. It's recognizing that this invisible force exists, that it's acting right now, and that you don't have to spend the rest of your life being controlled by it. Because when you begin to understand how your own mental system works, when you identify that the blocks are in your mind and not in the world around you, you can finally create space to build a new reality. At that moment, you start to realize that the prison never had walls, the bars have always been in your way of thinking. People often believe they need to wait for the perfect moment to act. They say, I'll start my business when I have enough money. Or, I'll move city once the children have grown up. That sounds sensible, doesn't it? But that mindset is exactly what keeps most people stuck. Because the perfect moment never arrives. There will always be an unexpected bill, an obligation, or a logical reason to delay. And the longer you wait, the further away you get from what you want. What I have discovered over the years is that the decision comes before the resources. Always. The mistake is to think the opposite. You don't need to have the money, the connections, the complete technical knowledge, or the ideal conditions to start. What you need is to decide. And when I say decide, I don't just mean thinking, it would be good if this happened someday. It's a committed decision that leaves no room for turning back. When I decided to start my first company, I had no experience in management, no knowledge of marketing, and no capital to invest. What I had was a deep desire to change my life and the courage to tell myself, I'm going to do this. There was no perfect plan. I didn't have a map with all the detailed steps. But a decision was made. And when that happened, things started moving. People I didn't know began to appear offering help. Clients came from places I could never have imagined. The result? More than £100,000 in my first year, in an area I had never worked in before. The truth is, when you truly commit, your brain starts to operate differently. It stops wasting energy looking for excuses and starts seeking solutions. Opportunities that have always been around you, but you didn't notice, become visible. It's like tuning into a radio station that was previously full of static. The frequency changes, and you start to pick up what once seemed non-existent. I have seen this happen to hundreds of people. I remember a man who approached me during an event. He was unhappy with his job, earning little and without prospects. When I explained that he needed to decide first and let the resources come afterwards, he looked at me skeptically. But still, he chose to follow the advice. Within a few months, he had closed his first contract in his own business. Interestingly, until the moment of decision, he had no idea how he would find clients. But the clarity of the choice attracted exactly what he needed. The great secret is to understand that if you wait to have all the answers before taking action, you will spend your entire life waiting. Successful people do not decide because they are certain how everything will happen. They decide because they know what they want and trust that the path will be revealed as they move forward. And this is where the magic begins. Doors that were once locked open, people you never imagined meeting enter your life, and situations that seemed like coincidences start to happen repeatedly. So, think for a moment, what would you do today if you were not afraid of a lack of resources? What decision would you make now if you knew, with absolute certainty, that it would set your life in motion? Because the truth is that the future does not wait, and every day you delay, your dream moves further away. The decision is the trigger. The rest you build along the way. Everything you desire already exists. It is not in the future, nor in a distant place, it is here, now, but on a different frequency from the one you are thinking on today. Just as to talk to someone on the mobile phone you need to be on the same frequency to connect, with your goals it is exactly the same. Your thoughts are energy. And, as simple as it may seem, this is one of the most powerful ideas you can understand. Most people think according to what they see around them. If the bills are overdue, they think scarcity. If the job is unstable, they think fear. If the market seems difficult, they think insecurity. And the problem is that when you remain in this mental pattern, you can only attract more situations that confirm those same thoughts. It is like trying to tune a classical music radio station, but staying stuck on a frequency that only plays static. No matter how much you want to hear the right music, unless you change the tuning, nothing changes. When I understood this, I began to notice that whenever I stayed stuck in thoughts of how and where will the money come from, I was exactly pushing away what I wanted to attract. It was only when I started focusing on the result I wanted, and not on what I lacked, that things began to flow. I remember a very striking case. I met Phil Goldfine, a man who was dissatisfied, earning little and working for someone he did not like. He did not know how to get out of that situation, but decided to trust the process. I guided him to change his mental focus to the life he wanted to have, and not to the difficulties of the present. Today, he is a millionaire and an award-winning producer. That was no coincidence. It was the consequence of thinking on the right frequency. What happens is that every goal you have is on a different floor, a higher vibration than the one you are on now. And you cannot go up just by looking up. You need to align your thinking with the energy of this new reality. When you start acting and feeling as if you are already there, your brain and body begin to work in harmony with this goal. The right ideas start to emerge, the right people cross your path, and opportunities that were previously invisible become evident. You have probably experienced something like this, even if you did not realize it. You know when you think intensely about someone and suddenly they call you. Or when you desire something strongly and suddenly an unexpected chance appears. This serves as evidence that thought and reality are far more interconnected than we have been taught to believe. And if such things can happen spontaneously, just imagine what is achievable when you do it deliberately. The key lies in understanding that it is not merely about wanting something, but wanting it in a specific, clear, and emotionally engaging way. It is pointless to say, "I want more money," while continuing to dwell on debts. You must determine the exact amount you desire, how you wish to feel upon possessing that sum, and mentally place yourself in the position of someone who has already attained it. When your mind and body operate in harmony with this mindset, you cease to force outcomes and begin to attract them naturally. It is precisely at this point that life appears to synchronize with you. Doors open effortlessly, solutions emerge when least expected, and what once seemed improbable starts to become inevitable. Fundamentally, this is not about creating something out of nothing, it is about tuning into something that has always been present, awaiting your arrival at the correct frequency. When you truly decide to change, it is not only your life that transforms. Those around you are also affected, and not everyone will respond positively. Often, resistance comes not from enemies or strangers, but from those you love and respect most. Family, friends, colleagues, all those who, theoretically, should be rooting for your success. Not because they wish you ill, but because your change compels them to adapt, unsettling their comfort zones. I have experienced this firsthand. When I left my job in the fire service to pursue a completely different path, many looked at me as if I had lost my mind. "You going to leave a secure job? With a fixed salary? Benefits? That's madness," they said. And I understand why they said that. To them, it was stability. But to me, it was a prison with invisible walls. I knew that if I stayed there, my life would follow a script I did not want to perform. The truth is, people do not resist change itself, they resist being forced to change. When you begin to act differently, they must adjust to the new version of you. Perhaps you are no longer available for the same conversations, the same habits, or the same complaints. Perhaps you start investing time and energy into things you previously did not value. This creates discomfort because it forces others to reflect on their own lives and often realize they too need to change. And this is where most give up. The emotional pressure to revert to how things were can be intense. You start hearing phrases like, "You're different, you're not the same anymore, this isn't you." But deep down, this is a sign that you are on the right path. Because if no one notices change, it means nothing has truly changed. I recall a situation that left a mark on me. One of my students had worked as a bartender for 15 years. She was good at her job, earned excellent tips, and that extra income made leaving her job seem crazy. But she had a dream, to open a gym to train puppy dogs. The problem was that meant giving up the security of immediate money, and she had no experience in running such a business. When she finally decided to take the risk, she received disapproving looks even from people close to her. But she persisted. And after some time, he was not merely living from what he loved, but earning more than he did in his previous job. Therefore, I want to challenge you. Over the next 30 days, make an important decision on your own, without seeking anyone's approval. It does not matter if it is something small or large. What matters is that it is a choice you, alone, believe is necessary for your growth. Notice how you feel when you do this. Observe how your behavior changes and, most importantly, how the people around you react. This exercise is not about rebellion, it is about strengthening your ability to act based on your own vision of the future, not on the expectations of others. The fact is, when you decide to change, you must understand that part of the process is facing resistance. It is natural. It is human. But it is not a reason to stop. Because, in the end, those who truly care about you will adapt and, perhaps, even be inspired. And those who do not adapt, perhaps that is a sign that they should not have so much influence over the course of your life. Most people live as extras in their own film. They appear on scene, play the role expected of them, follow the script someone else wrote, and leave the stage without ever questioning if that is truly what they want. It is like being on a huge film set, with thousands of people rushing from one side to another, but knowing the camera will never focus on you. Worse still, accepting this as normal. The problem is that, when you do not take the lead role, others will always decide for you. Others choose your lines, set the scenes, and even determine when it is time to cut your part. Society tells you what is possible, family imposes what is acceptable, and fear dictates what is safe. But what if, instead of accepting this script, you decided to write your own? Everything starts with a simple but powerful question: what do I really want? Not what seems logical, nor what others think you should want, but that which makes your heart race just thinking about it. When that answer truly comes, it is so clear that you feel as if you can already touch the final scene of your film. That is where the magic happens, because clarity creates direction, and direction demands action. When I stopped following what was realistic, and began chasing what I truly loved, my life took a turn I never imagined. Decisions became quicker, opportunities more visible, and the energy to act seemed endless. I was no longer reacting to what happened, I was creating the scenes of my own script. And this is the technique few apply: act as if it were already real. If you want to be a writer, write every day, even without a signed contract. If you want to start a business, behave like an entrepreneur right now, even if you still work for someone else. When you live according to the identity you want to have, your environment begins to shape itself to reflect that new version of you. It is as if the universe is setting the stage for the protagonist you decided to be. The most fascinating thing is that, when you take on this role, you begin to realize it was never a matter of luck or coincidence. It is about intention, decision, and consistency. You surround yourself with people who reinforce your vision, conversations change, your priorities align with what you want, and even difficulties become part of the plot, not insurmountable obstacles. Your film is being recorded right now. The question is, will you continue to appear as an anonymous face in the crowd, or will you take the script into your hands and say, "This is my story, and I am the protagonist"? Because, in the end, no one will remember the scenes where you stood quietly in the background. What leaves a mark is your performance in the leading role. And that role is available to you as soon as you decide you are the owner of your own story. There comes a point in life when you need to stop gathering information and start applying it, even if you don't feel ready. I see so many people jumping from course to course, book to book, video to video, waiting for the day they will know enough to act. It's as if they are building a library inside their own minds, but never opening the door for the outside world to see. The problem is that perfect day of complete readiness never arrives. There will always be something new to learn, a detail to adjust, a reason to wait a little longer. I have lived this myself. When I began studying personal development, I dived in head first. I read everything I could find, attended seminars, listened to tapes and more tapes. Each new piece of information felt like a temporary boost, but soon after, I would return to the same point. Until I realized I was addicted to learning, not to doing. The real change only came when I started applying what I knew, even feeling unprepared. What most people don't realize is that clarity doesn't come before action, it comes during action. It's like driving at night with the headlights on, you don't see the whole road, but you see enough to move forward a few meters. And as you move, the next stretch appears. If you wait to see the entire road before you start driving, you will remain stationary forever. I remember a man who told me he dreamed of speaking publicly but never felt ready. He said, "I need to improve my speech, understand the topic more, watch more talks," until one day, pushed by circumstances, he agreed to speak to a small group. He left trembling, thinking he was terrible. But in the end, people came up to thank him and ask for more meetings. That's when he realized, if he had waited to be perfect, he would never have started. What I want you to understand is that when you act, even with fear and uncertainty, something changes inside. Your confidence grows, your perception expands, and the world begins to respond differently. The people around you start seeing you as someone who does, not just someone who talks. And this shift in perception opens doors that were previously closed. So here is the challenge: choose something you have been postponing because you think you are not ready yet, and do it within the next 24 hours. It doesn't matter if it's imperfect. It doesn't matter if it's not the ideal moment. Just do it. Because, in the end, it's not accumulated knowledge that changes your life, but knowledge put into practice. And when you move, even without having all the answers, you discover you were more prepared than you thought. The most important point you need to take away from this is that the true power of transformation lies in what you choose to control, and acting on it wisely. This is the fundamental step to begin evolving from the inside out. And speaking of evolution, the next video is already appearing on your screen, which will take another step up in your journey of wisdom, helping you be at least 1% better than you are today. Thank you for being here with me on this journey. I'll be waiting for you in the next video so we can continue together in this quest for the best version of ourselves.